The Laundromat Mystery. I never expected a trip to the laundromat would lead to solving a neighborhood mystery, but when I found a cryptic note in my dryer, everything changed. It was a regular Sunday afternoon, and I was folding my clothes when I noticed a small, folded piece of paper among my laundry. Curious, I opened it and saw strange symbols and a few words in English. Find the key at the old oak tree. Intrigued, I decided to investigate. The only old oak tree I knew was in the park nearby. The next day, I went to the park and found the tree. I looked around and saw a small rusty key hidden in a hollow. What could this key open? I started asking around the neighborhood. Some people thought I was crazy, but others mentioned an old abandoned house at the end of Maple Street. I decided to check it out. The house was creepy, with broken windows and overgrown weeds. I hesitated but remembered the note. With the key in hand, I found a door at the back of the house. The key fit perfectly. Inside, I discovered a box full of letters and photographs. The letters revealed a love story from the 1920s. A young couple had hidden their correspondence to keep their love secret. The photographs showed places in our neighborhood from long ago. I shared my findings with the local historical society. They were thrilled and decided to create an exhibit about the couple. The mystery of the note led to a wonderful discovery about our neighborhood's past. My laundromat trip turned into an adventure I would never forget. The Café plant's secret. My morning coffee routine at the local cafe took an unexpected turn when I realized I could suddenly understand the whispered conversations of the plants on the windowsill. It was a normal Tuesday morning. I was sipping my coffee and enjoying a muffin when I heard soft voices. At first, I thought it was the radio, but then I realized the voices were coming from the plants. "Did you see the new plant?" one voice said. "Yes, she's so beautiful," another replied. I was shocked. How could I understand them? I decided to keep listening. Over the next few days, I learned that the plants had their own community. They talked about the people who came to the cafe, shared stories about their origins, and even gossiped about the barista's new haircut. They also mentioned a mysterious plant whisperer who visited the cafe every Thursday. Curious, I decided to visit the cafe on Thursday. I saw an elderly woman talking to the plants. She seemed kind and gentle. After she left, I approached the plants. "Who was that?" I asked. "She's the plant whisperer," they replied. "She understands us and takes care of us." I started talking to the plants every morning. They shared their wisdom and stories with me. I learned about different plant species and their needs. My mornings became more interesting and meaningful. I felt a special connection with the plants and the cafe. Teleconference Adventures. Stuck in a never-ending teleconference, I discovered I could astrally project myself anywhere in the world, but only for the duration of the call. It was another long, boring meeting. My boss was droning on, and I was doodling on my notepad. Suddenly, I felt a strange sensation and found myself floating above my body. I could see my office, my co-workers, and even my cat sleeping on the couch. Then, I thought about Paris, and in an instant I was there, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. The city was beautiful, and I could smell the fresh bread from a nearby bakery. I explored Paris for a while, then thought about the Great Wall of China. Instantly, I was there, walking along the ancient stones. I could see the mountains and valleys stretching out before me. The experience was incredible. After a few minutes, I was back in my office. The meeting was still going, and no one noticed I had been gone. I realized that I could astrally project myself anywhere in the world during these boring calls. Every day, I went on new adventures. I visited the pyramids in Egypt, the beaches of Hawaii, and the bustling streets of Tokyo. My meetings became the highlight of my day. I was excited to see where I would go next. I kept my secret to myself, enjoying my private journeys. My job was still the same, but my life had become extraordinary. I looked forward to every teleconference, knowing that a new adventure awaited me. The 34th Floor Speakeasy. Every day, I take the elevator to the 34th floor. But today, when the doors opened, I found myself in a bustling 1920s speakeasy. It was a normal Wednesday morning. I stepped into the elevator, pressed the button for my floor, and watched the numbers light up one by one. When the doors opened, I didn't see my office. Instead, I saw a lively scene from the past. People were dancing, laughing, and drinking in a dimly lit room. A jazz band played lively music, and the women wore flapper dresses with feathers in their hair. Men were dressed in suits and hats. The atmosphere was electric. I stepped out of the elevator, feeling like I had travelled back in time. A friendly bartender greeted me. "Welcome. Can I get you a drink?" he asked. I nodded, still in shock. He handed me a glass of something bubbly. As I sipped my drink, I noticed a familiar face. It was Mr. Thompson, the janitor from my office building. "Mr. Thompson," I asked. He smiled. "Call me Tom. Isn't this place amazing?" We chatted for a while, and he told me about the Speakeasy. It was a hidden club from the Prohibition era, and somehow the elevator had taken me there. He explained that the Speakeasy only appeared once in a while, and only a few people ever found it. The band played a slow song, and a woman in a red dress started singing. Her voice was beautiful, and the room fell silent. Everyone was captivated by her performance. After a while, I realized I had to get back to work. I said goodbye to Tom and stepped back into the elevator. When the doors opened, I was back on the 34th floor. My office was just as I had left it. I couldn't believe what had happened. Had it all been a dream? The bubbly feeling from the drink lingered, and I knew it was real. I looked forward to my next elevator ride, hoping to find the Speakeasy again. The Cat's Secret Network. I thought adopting a cat would be simple, until I realized my new feline companion was orchestrating a complex network of neighborhood pets. It all started when I adopted a cute black cat named Whiskers. He was playful and loved exploring. I enjoyed having him around, but soon I noticed something strange. Whiskers would leave the house every day and return at the same time. One day, I decided to follow him. He led me through the neighborhood, stopping at different houses. I saw other cats, dogs, and even birds meeting him. They seemed to be communicating. Curious, I observed from a distance. Whiskers was clearly the leader. He gave signals with his paws and tail, and the other animals responded. It was like they had a secret society. They shared food, toys, and information. I decided to investigate further. I followed Whiskers for a few days and discovered their meeting place, an old abandoned shed in the park. Inside, there were maps, drawings, and even small items from different houses. The pets had a well-organized network. One evening, I saw Whiskers leading a rescue mission. A small dog was trapped in a yard, and Whiskers coordinated a group of animals to free him. They worked together, and the dog was safe. I realized that Whiskers was not just an ordinary cat. He was a hero, helping other pets and keeping the neighborhood safe. I felt proud to have him as my companion. I decided to support their efforts. I started leaving extra food and water outside. I even helped them with their missions when I could. Whiskers and his network of pets became a big part of my life. Adopting Whiskers had brought unexpected excitement and joy into my world. The tiny civilization in the pipes. My attempt to fix the kitchen sink turned into an adventure when I found a tiny civilization living in the pipes, now threatened by my home repairs. It was a Saturday afternoon, and my kitchen sink was clogged. I decided to fix it myself. I grabbed my tools and started working. As I removed the pipes, I noticed a tiny light coming from inside. Curious, I looked closer. To my amazement, I saw tiny houses, streets, and even people. They were no bigger than ants but looked like humans. They were busy with their daily lives, unaware of my giant presence. I was fascinated. How could this tiny civilization exist in my pipes? I watched them for a while, trying not to disturb them. But then I realized that my repairs might destroy their home. I carefully put the pipes back together, making sure not to damage their world. I decided to find another way to fix the sink. I called a professional plumber and explained the situation. He looked at me like I was crazy but agreed to be careful. The plumber worked slowly, and we managed to fix the sink without harming the tiny civilization. I was relieved and happy. I continued to observe them from time to time, amazed by their resilience and ingenuity. I even started leaving small gifts for them, tiny bits of food, pieces of cloth, and other useful items. They seemed to appreciate it, and I felt a connection with them. My kitchen sink adventure taught me to be more mindful of the small and hidden wonders in the world. It was an unforgettable experience that made me appreciate the complexity and beauty of life, no matter the size. The time slip in the park. During my usual morning jog, I stumbled upon a time slip in the park that let me glimpse 5 minutes into the future, but only while running. It was a chilly autumn morning. I was running my usual route in the park when I noticed a strange shimmer in the air. Curious, I ran through it. Suddenly, everything around me looked different. I saw people and events happening 5 minutes ahead of my present time. I saw a woman drop her keys, a child chasing a ball, and a couple sitting on a bench, all before they actually happened. I stopped running, and everything went back to normal. The woman hadn't dropped her keys yet, and the child was still far from the ball. I realized that I could only see the future while running. Excited by this discovery, I decided to test it further. I started running again and saw a man about to trip over a rock. I quickly ran to him and moved the rock. When I returned to the shimmer, he passed by safely, unaware of what had just happened. This new ability allowed me to help people in small but meaningful ways. I saved a little girl from falling off her bike, stopped a car accident by warning the driver, and even found a lost dog before its owner realized it was missing. Every morning, I looked forward to my jog, eager to see what the future held. It was like a game, but with real-life consequences. I felt like a superhero, using my power to make a difference. The time slip in the park became my secret ally. It turned my routine jog into an exciting adventure, where every step had the potential to change someone's day for the better. The garden gnome's secret. I always thought my neighbour's obsession with her garden gnomes was harmless, until the night I saw them moving on their own. My neighbour, Mrs. Jenkins, had a yard full of garden gnomes. She loved them and spent hours arranging them. I thought it was a quirky hobby, nothing more. One night, I couldn't sleep. I decided to take a walk around the block. As I passed Mrs. Jenkins' house, I saw something strange. The garden gnomes were moving. They walked around the yard, talking to each other in hushed voices. I couldn't believe my eyes. I hid behind a bush and watched. The gnomes seemed to be planning something. They gathered in a circle and pointed towards Mrs. Jenkins' house. What were they up to? The next morning, I decided to talk to Mrs. Jenkins. "Good morning, Mrs. Jenkins. I saw something strange last night. Your garden gnomes were moving." She looked at me and smiled. "Ah, you've seen them, haven't you? They are magical gnomes. They protect my house and help me with small tasks." I was amazed. "Really? How did you get them?" Mrs. Jenkins explained that she found the first gnome in an antique shop. The shop owner told her it was special, and she soon discovered its magic. Over the years, she collected more magical gnomes. They became her friends and helpers. I was fascinated by her story. "Do they only come to life at night?" I asked. "Yes," she replied. "They prefer the quiet of the night to do their work." I started visiting Mrs. Jenkins more often. She told me stories about her gnomes and their adventures. I even helped her with her garden, and the gnomes seemed to appreciate it. They left small gifts for me, like flowers and shiny pebbles. The garden gnome's secret brought magic and excitement to my life. I felt lucky to have discovered their world and to share in Mrs. Jenkins's enchanted life. The crossing guard's superpower. My first day as a crossing guard became extraordinary when I realised I could temporarily freeze time whenever I raised my stop sign. I was nervous about my new job. I wanted to make sure the kids crossed the street safely. As I stood at the crosswalk, I saw a group of children approaching. I raised my stop sign, and to my surprise, everything around me froze. The cars stopped, the people stopped, even the birds in the sky stopped moving. I lowered the sign, and time resumed. The kids crossed the street safely. unaware of what had happened. I couldn't believe it. Did I really have the power to freeze time? I decided to test it again. I raised the sign, and once more, everything froze. I walked around, amazed by the stillness. I could see everything clearly and move freely. When I lowered the sign, time continued as normal. This power was incredible. I used it to keep the kids safe, making sure no accidents happened. I could stop time and move obstacles, pick up things that fell, and even guide the children if they were distracted. One day, a little boy dropped his toy in the street. I froze time, picked up the toy, and handed it back to him. He smiled and thanked me, not knowing about my secret power. Being a crossing guard became more than just a job. It was a way to protect and help the children in extraordinary ways. My stop sign became a tool of safety and magic. I felt proud and happy. I knew I was making a real difference. Every day, I look forward to using my superpower to keep everyone safe. It was the best job I ever had. The dental treasure map. What started as a routine dental cleaning turned bizarre when my dentist discovered a map etched on one of my molars. A map leading to a local treasure. I was sitting in the dentist's chair, feeling nervous as usual. Dr. Miller was cleaning my teeth when he suddenly stopped and stared at one of my molars. "What's wrong?" I asked, worried. "There's something strange here," he said. "It looks like a map." "A map? On my tooth?" "Yes, it's very small, but I can see lines and shapes. It looks like a treasure map." I was shocked. How could there be a map on my tooth? Dr. Miller took a picture of it and printed it out. We examined it together. The map showed a park with an X marking a spot near a large tree. "Do you recognize this place?" Dr. Miller asked. "Yes, it's the park near my house," I replied. "Well, it looks like you have a treasure to find." I couldn't believe it. I decided to go to the park and check it out. I took the map and headed to the large tree. I dug around the base and found a small old box. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside, there were old coins, jewelry, and a letter. The letter was from a man named William, who had buried the treasure in the early 1900s. He hoped someone would find it one day and appreciate its value. I took the treasure to the local museum. They were thrilled and decided to create an exhibit about William and his hidden treasure. They even included the story of how I found the map on my tooth. My routine dental visit turned into an amazing adventure. I became a local hero, and the treasure brought joy and history to our community. It was an experience I would never forget.